Hello and welcome to another edition of What Does the Giraffe Say Media with me, Kathleen Ritorne. We're an organisation that aims to connect people around the world of conservation efforts by holding live interviews on social media. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by Darren Priddle, and he runs Dogs for Wildlife. So, Darren, I'm going to hand over to you. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself. What came first? Was it your love of dogs or the love of conservation? And how Dogs for Wildlife was born?
Quite interesting. We've been professional dog trainers now for around 15 years. We've had a great passion for dogs for a very long time, and that kind of naturally led us to getting into the world of loving all animals and wildlife. And through that, and through our professional training company, we decided what better way for ourselves to be able to train a dog to help protect endangered species. And that's kind of where Dogs for Wildlife blossomed. And we started originally through our training company to help another not-for-profit in the UK train and deploy dogs to South Africa or Southern Africa. And from that point now, we're obviously established as Dogs for Wildlife and have supplied 12 dogs to 4 different Southern African countries.
And what was it that made you go, okay, it needs to be focused on the animals in Africa? Was this something that you'd been brought up to be very aware of, or was it something that came over time?
I think obviously wildlife, animals in general, obviously the UK wildlife has always been very important, and obviously a big passion of ours alongside the dogs that we care for and train. And we saw a lot at that point in time back in 2015, when poaching was at its most prolific. We saw a lot of media publications on all of the rhino and elephant that were being poached at that point in time. And I had a chat with Jackie, my partner, and we said how could we offer our support to the front line of anti-poaching rangers. And obviously we could see that there were, I don't think anti-poaching dogs at that point in time were as publicized as they are at the moment, and they weren't as widely spread, utilized in some of the frontline operations that these guys are doing on the ground. And I said to Jackie at that point in time, what a wonderful thing it would be for us to be able to gift one of our Malinois puppies to one of these outlets to see how effective they could be on the front line helping combat wildlife crime. And it basically snowballed from there. It started with one Malinois puppy called Polaris, who's now in Save Valley in Zimbabwe. It turned into his brother Rogue, and then we had Bo, and then it just blossomed from there. And we could actually see what a tangible impact our dogs and the training of those dogs were having on in supporting these guys and all of the efforts that they go to, so, protecting the wildlife.
And you mentioned there that you was working a lot with the Malinois. What is it about this breed that makes them suitable for this type of work?
Quite a number of things. Their adaptability is really, really vital for us. Their ability to approach any situation and approach it with a very intelligent, balanced mind. They're very keen, intense dogs that are very driven to work operationally. They tick so many boxes for us, and obviously our bloodline, our in-house bloodline breeding program that we have here is derived over what is now almost 6 generations, and we've got a very in-depth in-house program in terms of our breeding and our genetics that we run alongside our puppy development program that produces some really, really special dogs. And the Malinois in itself as a standalone breed is widely used across the world in all frontline operational deployments. And I just think you don't get a better level and caliber of dog than a Malinois. German Shepherds are very good. There's lots of other very good working and operational breeds. But for me, if I want to train a dog that can be highly effective at long distance, difficult tracking, that can also be utilized for detection purposes, that we could also utilize for apprehension purposes as well as being biddable, social, stable, balanced, and dealing with the type of environment and climates that these dogs are operating in, we couldn't ask for a better breed. And as I said, alongside the individual breed, our breeding program and our puppy development program is kind of standalone in terms of producing a really, really excellent level and standard and caliber of dog.
And for those who might not know or watching, what were they initially bred for, and kind of how does then that fit in with what your guys are doing?
Well, Malamar, obviously Shepherd, obviously the Dutch and Belgian Shepherd dogs, they're a shepherding breed, so they are genetically predisposed to herding. That was their original use, as well as general purpose guard duties. So they have the bloodline that we use is a Dutch bloodline. It's called the KMPV system, which is a breeding and training system that predominantly produced dogs for the Dutch police dog unit, and that's been developed over 50 plus years. And we tapped into that genetic pool, and the type of dogs that the KMPV system produces is very extreme, driven, but social, balanced, and stable dogs that provide us with the ability to make sure that they exceed in most cases exceed the capabilities that we need to utilize the dogs for. So they're very good dogs. They're all round very, very good, very capable dogs.
And you've mentioned before that these are puppies that you've been breeding. What would you say is the training process? Does it start from a very young age, and what sort of things do you do with them? And how do you get them ready to go to Africa?
That's a great question. We start, obviously, before we even breed a litter, we start with selecting complementary genetics. So we've got, as I said, hit 5 or 6 generations of our breeding females, and we go out and source the right suitable and complementary bloodlines in terms of the stud or sire that we use to make sure that what we produce as a standpoint is exactly the type and caliber of dog that we want. And then we take those genetics, and our development program starts anywhere from around 2 or 3 days old, where we start exposing them to little bits of environmental stress and stimulation training that just starts getting their neurons firing a little bit and gets exposing them to different surfaces and temperatures and different scents as well. We include a different scent every day over the first 3 or 4 weeks, just to get their brain working and firing and expose and allow the dogs to over time develop a very strong ability, one, to utilize their nose, and also to deal effectively with stress. That's really important. And then once the puppies are from anywhere from about 3 to 6 weeks old, we put them through quite an extensive development program that covers travel, that covers surfaces, that covers different sights, sounds, and smells, just to make sure that even before the time that they're 8 weeks old, they are very, very stable, very confident, very adaptable dogs. And then once they reach 6 to 8 weeks old, we start the training program straight away, so that we will be starting engagement training, getting those puppies interested in their handler and trainer, going through environmental training so that they get used to different environments in terms of going up, over, through, and under everything in the world around them. So we make them really strong and stable dogs. So the idea is, throughout their operational life, then whatever they are faced with, whether it be an adversity, whether it be a difficult task, whether it be something that they actually have to use their brains and think about and use their intelligence, they approach those situations with a understanding of being capable and understanding that they are able to achieve any goal that's faced with them, including obviously their ranger handlers as well. And that's helped with the genetics alongside our development program, creating dogs that will take on any adversity and are extremely, as I said, capable dogs.
And what exactly are that you training them to do? I mean, there's a lot of issues that vary, I guess, from each country in Africa, but not even just each country in Africa, each region within that, with the issues that they're facing. There's different things. There's bushmeat, there's human wildlife conflict, there's actual ivory and rhino horn poaching. Are they trained on all of these things, or do you get a dog and just say, okay, it's going to focus on this, and this dog is going to focus on this? How does that work?
Well, what we've done in the past is we've tried to offer a very personable specialist support service in terms of working with an individual reserve or organization and tailor training effectively that dog directly for their requirements and needs. So if they are having a lot of poaching incursions and they're losing rhino and elephant, we would generally develop and train a dog for them that's capable of long distance tracking and apprehension work, i.e. Defending and protecting their handlers if and only if the need arises, with obviously our main focus task with developing that dog's tracking capability. There are obviously options for detection purposes, which cover a wide range of bases, all the way from ivory and keratin detection to ammunition to pangolin scale, which would be covered under keratin. You've got dogs that work at ports, that work at airports, that can check baggage, that can check vehicles, that can check persons, that realistically can be trained on any singular specific odor you want that dog to be trained on. And the detection dogs are much more adaptable in that sense, that the Spaniels, the Labradors, etc., even some Malinois and German Shepherd can be developed for detecting absolutely any singular odor a reserve or conservancy or park need that dog to specialize in detecting. Whereas the general purpose dogs, the Malinois predominantly, we focus our time on teaching them to follow and track human scent over long distances.
Okay, I didn't realize it was as specialized as that. That's incredible. We've got a question coming through from Jason. Hi, Jason. Good to see you. He's a regular watcher of the show. And he's saying, as a former Navy diver canine handler and anti-poaching canine handler, how much husbandry do you create with your canines in bonding particularly?
Well, that's a great question, Jason. Actually, for us, even before we set up and established Dogs for Wildlife, we prioritize our relationships with our dog. It's what we teach all of our private clients that we deal with, general obedience and behavioral training. Relationship is vital. It's the foundation and staple of everything that we want these rangers to utilize when they are operating with these dogs on the front line. So we spend 12 to 15 months of our life every day with these dogs, developing their characters, increasing and encouraging their capabilities. Everything is about their relationship with us as their handlers and trainers. We go through everything with our dogs from the age of 4 or 5 weeks old. It's all about relationship, and that's something that we then teach the rangers that we work with how to continue and develop that bond when they're operational on the front line. And some of the guys that we work with, some of the rangers that take on some of our dogs that we support, to watch them grow from a ranger that actually is inherently scared of dogs to a ranger that you literally couldn't prize away from that dog after a couple of weeks because of the level of bond, love, and affection is so rewarding. And that's one of the elements why we really are passionate about what we're doing is creating this level of communication and teamwork and effectiveness that we try to prioritize with every dog that we support these reserves with. And so that's inherently important to us in terms of our foundational training, in terms of our development program, and then passing that dog over to the rangers once the dog is deployed. That's the main focus of our advanced handler and ranger training program, is teaching them about building an effective bond with their dog, because the aim of all of our training is to get that dog to work automatically, so that the rangers can go through that operational process with that dog without commands, without a lead, without a line. And yes, that takes a little bit of time once the dog is adjusted to being operational on the front line, but that's something that we strive for, is getting these rangers, which I have seen and it has been done, getting these rangers to work with these dogs as one. They are one unit. They don't need to be constantly reminding. They don't need to be constantly inputting. The dog knows what the rangers are going to do, and the rangers know what the dog's going to do, and they work literally fluidly. And that comes, which a lot of people don't understand, that actually comes from and through the level of relationship that these guys have with these dogs. And a lot of people talk about safety. A lot of people talk about, how these dogs operate on the front line. But when people understand and realize that relationship, that foundation of that relationship is where their capabilities are formulated, that's really the importance. It's, yes, the dog is important, the type of dog, the genetics of that dog. Yes, the training and development that we go through and work so hard to try and incorporate is also vitally important. But it's these rangers that are operating these dogs on the front line, and their level of commitment, dedication, and passion to what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve, that creates this formidable team that is unsurpassed. There's nothing that can touch a highly experienced and well-trained AP unit with a very well-trained dog. You just cannot touch it.
And is there an adjustment process for the dog itself? Because you mentioned there that you spend many months working with this animal from a very, very young age. So I imagine they form a bond with you guys. How do you then try and get that bond to shift away from you and onto his new owner?
And another great question. Interestingly, once all dog behavior generally to a point is conditioned behavior. And so what we try to create is such an intense intrinsic bond with ourselves as the trainers. It's very difficult to lose a dog sometimes, because we've got a very, very close, especially like with Shinga, for example, that we deployed to Amire. You know, that was a very sad day for me personally, because I'd spent the last 15 months with that dog every day, developing her into the dog she is now operationally. And it's that conditioned relationship that we have with our dogs, that even though we are leaving them effectively and they are being transferred over to other people, that relationship is so intrinsically valued to the dog that that relationship immediately transfers over to the ranger handler that's then responsible for that dog, with a slight transitional period. But that's why it's very important for me to go over with these dogs, to be there to facilitate that transitional period and show the dog and show the ranger about that level of relationship. In terms of adaptability, that comes back to what I said about our development program. We expose the dogs to so much in terms of sights, sounds, smells, environment, situations, that actually, when they are deployed to a sub-Saharan country, sub-Saharan African country, it's kind of like they were meant to be there. Yes, okay, they've got to take into consideration the temperature fluctuations, but actually, in some respects, that's easier for them because it's a lot more consistent than the UK is anyway. So once they get used to the heat and they have a program, a management program around operating and training that dog at times when it's suitable for the dog to operate and train, generally it takes weeks. We give the guys a 6-week settling in period anyway, to allow the dog to experience all of the sights, sounds and smells of the reserve, get used to every nook and cranny of that reserve, go out every day on the back of a bakkie and go around with the unit and spend time with everybody. And that's generally when we start the formal training process, is after that initial 6-week period. But it doesn't take 6 weeks. It's much faster than that.
And we've got a question coming through from Boris. Hey, Boris, lovely to see you, another regular of the show. And he's based in Uganda and working with rangers there. He's very impressive what you're doing and he loves the idea. And he's wondering, do you offer any opportunities for training to others in other countries so they can then kind of bring this out further into different regions?
Absolutely. That's one of our main aims. Is our main pillars are canines, conservation and community. And we are very much all about working with and alongside any frontline organization or unit that we can. And we don't just offer the dogs, we also offer our experience, our knowledge, our advice and guidance. Any way that we can support any of these rangers and the units that surround them, we will do so. So absolutely, that's more than viable.
And then, do all of the dogs that you're training, I imagine there's many in a litter when they're born and they're all going through different processes. I know, for example, when you have dogs being trained for the blind people, for example, then that can, not every dog makes it. Some of them are just too friendly or too easily occupied by other exciting things. Do you have the same issue? What do you do if it doesn't make it to Africa? What happens to the puppies and do they make good pets?
Well, we've not had that yet, because what we try to do is prioritize the correct selection of the puppy that we utilize or have intentions of utilizing for Dogs for Wildlife. So we have quite a regimented criteria when we go through a puppy selection process to make sure that puppy has everything that we need to be able to deploy that dog, even through the development and training program. We know, generally speaking, at 8 weeks that puppy is going to be the right character, temperament, and type of puppy that we are going to look for. It needs to be balanced, it needs to be social, yet it needs to be self-assured, confident, not too confident, because we don't want a dog that is constantly trying to do things that aren't working necessarily with the handlers and rangers, but just a nice, balanced, well-rounded, driven dog that's interested in working with the handler and ranger. So we haven't had it yet. We've had one injury, which was Yuri, who was supposed to go over to South Africa. We were on a track about 4 weeks before she was due to be deployed. It was about a 2-mile track, and she crossed a ravine. And as she jumped the ravine, landing on the other side of the ravine, she got a cruciate injury. And we obviously took her to the vets, and they said she has a cruciate injury, and we can put her through rehabilitation, but the likelihood of this injury reoccurring at a later date is high. And we decided then at that point that actually it wasn't best for us to put her into that operational role because of the likelihood of that injury reoccurring. So we didn't want to do that for the welfare implications of the dog. And likewise, we didn't want to put the unit in a position where they had to cope and deal with the dog with a quite serious injury themselves. So we decided to retire her. And we found a nice, suitable environment for her to live the rest of her life out as a family dog. Do they make good pets? This is a very touchy subject because the Malinois in the UK is a very popular breed at the moment. There are a lot of breeders producing the very strong, capable working Malinois and placing them into family homes. We are seeing as professional trainers a large fallout of that in terms of, you know, poor behavioral management, reactivity, aggression issues, dogs that aren't stimulated enough and or managed and trained enough. So they can make good pets, but you need to pick the right dog suitable for your own home environment and also be the right type of owner that can deal and cope and manage and train that level of dog. And a lot of people aren't that type of owner, sadly.
Yeah, there's a lot of commitment that you need to put in and a lot of work. And yeah, so, I mean, I think they're wonderful dogs. Is one for me? Absolutely not. We have a question coming in through. We have a question coming in through Winnie, and she's asking, do the dogs get close to one ranger as its master and take commands, or from the whole team?
Good question. So we obviously, through their training and development program, they generally have just one main trainer or handler. We do multi-handle. Multi-handling is a very important aspect to our development program because it allows the dogs to deal with and cope with being taken and handled and trained and developed by differing people. We don't do it a lot, but we do it enough that it allows the dog to be worked and operated by a number of people in a core unit. So there will be one, generally we will choose one or two main handlers for one dog. That covers effectively if there's any sickness or leave. There's always two people that can look after the welfare and the management and the training and deployment of the dog. But yes, if need be, the rest of that unit are capable of handling, instructing and operating that dog effectively to the same level. The dog won't have the same level of relationship and understanding that it does with its main handlers, but it is more than capable of being handled and operated by any of the other team or members of the team.
And we have another question coming through from Alison. Hi, Alison. And she's asking, how long would the dogs be expected to work for? And what happens to the dogs when their working lives are over?
Great questions. How long would the dogs be expected to work for? I don't know if she means in terms of length of life or in terms of how long they operate for each day. So generally speaking, each day, 6 days a week, we need to give them rest days as much as we also need to take a little bit of time off to recuperate and recharge. Generally, they would be 6 days a week. They would be operational if need be overnight, as well as also then operating generally first thing in the morning and last thing at dusk, kind of afternoon, evening when it's a little bit cooler. And that would be differing each day between obedience training, tracking training, bit of relationship building, some games, some fun, some free time. And it's moderated and fluctuated between all of those, generally 6 days a week in an evening and also then in the morning. They generally can operate until they're around 8 or 9 years old. That's the fair assessment of operating a dog when you would look ideally to retire them. There are dogs that are capable of going till they're 9 or 10. We wouldn't generally ever push a dog past 10 years old because that's their time to chill out and lie down outside in the sun and enjoy the finer things in life. And the retirement process at the moment is trying to, most of the reserves that we work with generally speaking, they will keep the dogs with them. They will become an integral part of the wider reserves family members and the unit's family members. They will stay as an integral part of the ranging unit, in terms of working and just operating on the reserve as a pet dog. That's been a anti-poaching dog. We are looking ideally long term at a formal retirement procedure. We're in the process at the moment of becoming a UK registered charity, and I'm hoping once we become a fully registered charity, that will enable us to establish a retirement process if there isn't the option for keeping the dog on the reserves. And I think that that's primarily what we're going to be doing, is keeping the dogs on the reserves with the reserve owners, or then also with the ranging units. But also looking at a retirement program where we can offer, depending on the dog. Obviously, some of the operational GP dogs maybe not suitable for that, but a lot of the detection dogs would be, of offering retirement opportunities that are supported and funded to get the dogs placed back into the UK or different family environments around the world, where we can offer them a nice family home environment to live out the rest of their days.
And we've had two questions that come through that kind of feed quite nicely into each other, actually. So the first one is from Claudia Eva, and she's asking, would it be possible to train the dogs in the environment that they'll be working in? That way they wouldn't need to have to adapt to the changes of deployment. So there's that one. But then there's another one that kind of links a little bit into that, which is from Jason. And he's asking, do you find local breeds such as Rhodesian, Ridgebacks and Borbal Mastiffs adapt well to any of your needs? So does it have to be this dog, or can you train that dog in South Africa, for example? Or would you be better off training a local dog in those regions?
Our ideal, and something we're working towards quite heavily at the moment, is establishing a second base of operations for Dogs for Wildlife in Southern Africa, that we can set up and establish our own breeding program, our own training facility for both dogs and rangers. We can invite rangers to us and operate our training and development process on the ground. Yes, I'm well aware that obviously deploying and training dogs in the environment that they are going to operate in is always going to be the best format in terms of the development of these dogs. But if that mitigates any adaptability process, at the moment, I'm not seeing it. My priority would be to train the dogs in country and develop and raise them in the bush. That would make, necessarily things a lot easier in terms of their development program. I'm not seeing any fallout from training dogs in the UK and deploying them to South Africa at the moment, or Southern Africa. We have aims to, as I said, establish a dog and ranger school that will allow us that opportunity. In terms of the breeds that are actually available in Southern Africa at the moment, and this is just from my personal experience, so there are probably many organizations and companies out in Southern Africa that have a better quality of dog and standard of genetics. From my own personal experience, I don't feel some of the dogs that you have available to you in Southern Africa at the moment are of the caliber and character and type that would be able to meet the capability standard of some of the access that we have to the genetic pool we have here in Europe. And a lot of the good dogs I have seen across Southern Africa are already imported from Europe anyway. So it's kind of like we have a slightly better genetic pool, and we have a different approach and knowledge base for our operational deployment and training. There are many great organizations and companies working on the front line already in Southern Africa with some absolutely amazing, formidable dogs and accomplishing some really great successes. So they are there. I just feel, personally speaking, from my own experience and knowledge, that some of the quality of dogs that we have here at the moment in the UK and the Malinois in itself fits the bill the best for the type of, operational life that these dogs are going to be utilized for.
Thank you so much. And we have another question coming through from Boris. He's apologizing for asking another question. Do not apologize, Boris. It's absolutely fine. It's a good question. He's asking, what are the chances of the dogs being attacked by other animals such as hyenas, or the dogs themselves attacking other animals, given animal politics?
That's good. That's a great question. A lot of our foundational work, we work and have partners in the UK, namely Safari Zoo and Folly Farm, that are both wildlife zoos in the UK. And as we go through the development process with our puppies, starting from 8 weeks, we take them to the zoos and we expose them to numerous sights, sounds, and smells of the wildlife. We get access to the enclosures. They can get face-to-face with rhino. They can get face-to-face with big cats. They can get face-to-face with antelope species, wildebeest, etc. And so it gives the dogs the ability to learn to be socially neutral and calm in the presence of wildlife and other animals, even before we've got them over to and deployed them to Africa. So in that respect, they are already animal stable and neutral. So they're not interested in animals. They're not interested in wildlife. They see them as just part and parcel of the environment. And in regards to the dogs actually being attacked by other animals like predatory animals, generally speaking, it hasn't happened yet, but the dogs are always going to be with a formal anti-poaching unit. So they will be backed up by armed rangers who wouldn't ever put them or themselves in a situation where that's likely to ever happen. But they have the ability, if need be, to get out of that situation as quickly and as feasibly as possible. And the dogs are operated in close proximity to the handlers. So it's not as if the dogs are running 200, 300, 400 meters free on their own in front of the ranger unit. They're working within about a 15 to 20 meter space in front of the rangers. So it's all very tight knit, operating in the bush as a close-knit unit that, as I said, work together as one. So that they all read the environment, they all assess and make sure they're considering security risks at all times.
And I know as well that you run a lot of education projects, both in England and then over in Africa as well. What kind of projects are you running, and what's the focus of these?
Most of them are working with communities that surround the reserves that we work with, trying to get them to see, as many other organizations and charities and not-for-profits are, is in terms of trying them to see the inherent value in the wildlife that they are surrounded by. We're trying to create links here at the moment. Obviously, we're based in Wales, United Kingdom, so we're trying to create long-term links and connections between educational facilities and outlets here in the UK, as well as those in sub-Saharan Africa, so that the school children can communicate and they can discuss conservation and environmental topics. That's something that we're quite passionate about as well, and we want to improve and increase as our organization grows and develops, is involving as many people as possible in trying to increase the conservation efforts and environmental impact of everybody, both in sub-Saharan Africa as well as here in the UK. We all have a part to play and a role to play. No matter how small, we can all make a positive impact and change. And I think, the more people that are aware of that, not just what we're doing at Dogs for Wildlife, but what so many other fantastic organizations, individuals, companies, charities are all trying to work for and towards a common goal of effective and sustainable long-term conservation. I think education is really a very strong integral part of that, because if people aren't aware of what's happening and aren't aware of what's going on, the old see it, feel it, touch it type mentality, they need to, seeing is believing for me. That's something I've personally always believed, that you need to actively be involved in something to truly have a belief and passion in that something. And the more people we can showcase and the more people we can teach and educate and inform and get involved in what we're doing and try and get them involved in what all of these other organizations and individuals are doing, the better success everybody is going to have across the board. So collaboration, assistance, support, everybody working together and trying to all come forward and work towards a common goal is vitally important. And our future generations are where that all starts. So that's kind of where our focus is, as much as we can. And alongside that, we hope to, with the Canine and Ranger Training School, when we get that organized and set up, that will be something that we incorporate as a classroom, that we can involve local communities, school children to have access to a library, have access to computers and Wi-Fi, and just encourage a general interest and understanding in wildlife conservation and the environment.
For sure. And if people are watching and they want to be able to support, what's the best way for them to do that for you?
They can contact us directly, info@dogsforwildlife.org. We've also got a really great website, www.dogsforwildlife.org, which you can see a lot of our projects. You can see what we're all about, where we work, what we're involved in, and what we want to try and accomplish. And that's generally the best way at the moment, increasing visibility and awareness and discussing and talking, and obviously having access to things like this is fantastic. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And just trying to increase and grow what we're doing and why we're doing it, and try and get more and more people on board. So if, as I said, everybody has a role to play, no matter how small. So if you can share a post, if you can show a bit of interest, if you can do some fundraising, if you can, have involvement in some of our projects, then, the more the merrier. We welcome everybody. The more support we have, the better. The more we can achieve, and the more we can do and support these frontline guys that are just inspiring.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as Darren said, if you are enjoying, please do give it a like, comment, and share. The more people that do see the show, the more awareness we can raise for the work that we are doing, and the work that Darren's doing, but also the work that the Rangers are doing as well. So it really does help. It might hit someone that they might not have realised quite what work goes into conservation, and might inspire other people to join too. So please do give it a like, comment, and share. I only have one more question left, Darren, and then we'll wrap up. If you have a comment that you would like to put towards Darren, or a question, then please do just pop it in the comment section, and I will do exactly that for you. If you're watching and it's no longer live, then you can still put a question in, and one of us will get back to you with a response for that for you. So I wanted to know what it was that you are hoping for the future.
Oof, good question. Just the continuation of growth of Dogs for Wildlife. As I said, our main focus now over the coming, we've got a 5-year plan to try and increase our capability on the ground. We are based in the UK at the moment. There are limitations to that. The just deploying a dog at the moment in terms of the shipment of said dog is ridiculously expensive, and so we've got to try and facilitate some ability for us to reduce our costs and reduce our funding endeavors, so that we can better support and better equip some of the reserves and organizations on the front line. So I think for us, focusing on the Canine and Ranger Training School is really important, and trying to get that established. Working and developing our educational and community-based initiatives is really important, and trying to fit all of that into one facility, and then just growing that facility so that we can offer tangible, long term. I want to try and offer formal, nationally recognized qualifications to some of these rangers on the front line to increase their ability for employment and income. And there's so many great possibilities in terms of what can be achieved with these guys that work so hard on the front line. They're honestly, their dedication and commitment, as I said, is just inspiring, and constantly keeps us motivated to want to find avenues and ways of further supporting them. And one of the big things I do want to say actually is, I would really love more reserves and organizations and conservancies and national parks to contact us to see how we can help you, because I don't want them to feel like that actually taking a dog from Dogs for Wildlife it's going to be a big responsibility. It's a big commitment, but it's not going to cost them any financial input, because we look at funding our own support through donorship, through philanthropic funding, through corporate funding and sponsorship. So we try to make sure that we can fully support the dogs that we deploy. So we've got the ability to help you. We can help you with these dogs. We can give you the training, we can give you the equipment, we can facilitate the complete support and development of a anti-poaching canine unit to help you guys really have better successes on the successes that you're already achieving, and the wonderful jobs that you're already doing. So if we can do that, please reach out. We are more than happy to offer our support and in any way that we can, no matter how small. Even if it's just with a little bit of advice and guidance, we can offer it. It's no problem.
Thank you so much, Darren. And we've had some lovely comments as we've been going through, some great questions as well. Thank you, everyone, for watching as well. We've really enjoyed you joining in and for being so engaged. So for me, I'd like to say thank you very much, and to enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And as I said, if you need any more information or want any more knowledge, experience, input, advice, get in contact. We're more than happy to help. Thank you for the opportunity again, Kathleen. It's been fantastic.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
No problem. Have a great